Well, that sucked. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to the episode of Podcast and Podcast where you don't have to do Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Yep, we just got swept by both New Jersey teams, Grossi, and today we are going to break down the Green Bay Packers loss to the New York Jets, 27-10. A game where there were some nerves for Packers fans heading into this game, considering how they performed against the Giants, especially in the second half, and considering, in all due respect to the Jets, they have a great defensive line. On top of that, they have a great secondary, and they have a young quarterback with a good running back in Breece Hall. So I had a feeling that this game was not going to be a walk in the park by any means. A very winnable game, a game the Packers should have won. Unfortunately, though, they got kicked in the face.
I don't even want to be around anymore.
Let's take a look at some stats here. Rodgers, 26 for 41. He threw the ball 41 times, 241 yards, 1 touchdown, was sacked 4 times. Dillon, 10 carries for 41 yards, averaging 4.1. Jones, 9 carries for 19 yards, only averaging 2.1. Tunyon was their leading receiver today, 10 catches for 90 yards, and Lazard had the lone touchdown for the Packers and also caught 4 passes for 16 yards. I'm going to dive into the offense and talk about that after we go through the Jets, because the Jets had a really easy game plan to beat the Green Bay Packers, because Zach Wilson completed 10 passes for only 110 yards. Didn't have to do much. He tried to get a rushing touchdown at the very end, but the defense was able to hold and was only sacked 2 times. Meanwhile, the reason why they won is not only because they're great defense, but Breece Hall, 20 carries for 116 yards, as well as a touchdown. You also had Michael Carter get a bunch of yards. He got 41 yards on the day, a total of over 170 rushing yards for the Jets. And that was it. That's how the Jets beat the crap out of us. They had a great defense. They also had blocked punts, blocked field goals, which most certainly helped them, but they had a lockdown defense, which didn't allow the Packers to do much, and they had a strong running game, and they were able to win. Now, let's talk about all the woes that are facing the Green Bay Packers right now, because after today, it has already begun. Last week, there was already doom and gloom, and this week, there's even more doom and gloom. And a lot of people are asking, Tom, is it time to hit the panic button? Yes, it is time to hit the panic button, but not necessarily in the way that you might expect. Because here's the good news, and there's not much of it, but here's the good news. It is just week 6. Now, the biggest concern for the Packers right now, besides them not being able to freaking score any points and their defense getting gassed in the second half, the biggest problem is the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings are on a winning streak right now. They are not winning pretty at all. It is all ugly wins. Hell, look at the Dolphins game today, but they are still winning. They've only lost 1 football game, and we're going to be playing the Dolphins on Christmas, where they're likely to be more healthy. So the issue is the Vikings might get to the point where they're so far ahead, we might not be able to catch them even if they are not a great football team. But that's a concern for way down the line. Right now, the Packers have a ton of concerns. There's people last week and this week who are calling for Jordan Love to take over because Aaron Rodgers is not playing well. He obviously has a hand injury, which he brought up last week, but was fine enough to play. The problem is that there's multiple problems, and they're all coming together to create a really bad football team right now. And make no mistake, that's what the Green Bay Packers are right now in week 6. They are a very bad football team. Again, all the respect to the Jets and the Giants. The Giants were able to beat the Ravens today, and the Jets are no slouches. But the Packers, they have a lot of issues, and let's go through those really quick. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has missed a lot of throws. He is not looking that great. But then he could have amazing throws like to Robert Tunyon, which was very Jared Cook-esque on the sideline. He could drop a dime to Allen Lazard in his hands. He can do all that. It's the consistency that is a problem. So whether that is because of the wide receivers, which could be a thing, considering Christian Watson, Sammy Watkins, and then Randall Cobb were all out of this game, Cobb suffering a leg injury later in the game, that definitely hurts. Hell, you had Juwan Winfrey up, who was elevated today, and you also had Amari Rodgers even catching passes out there. So wide receivers are an issue. Aaron Rodgers' play is an issue. On top of that, continuing to look at the offense, The Packers, there were times where the running game actually did look good. They broke off a big play, but then they would get called back for holding, or they would wind up just throwing after that, and it didn't work out. Aaron Rodgers, who has a hurt hand, was forced to throw the ball 41 times. And you go back to Matt LaFleur or Aaron Rodgers. Whose issue is it? And the answer is it's both. And that's the problem with this offense. Throw on top of that the fact that Rodgers was sacked 4 times today, was constantly pressured. This was an issue in the Giants game. Does not help. Elton Jenkins, I love you to death. He needs to not be right tackle anymore. I know we have some injuries. That's why Royce Newman has to play on the offensive line right now, but he has to go back into the interior, and someone else needs to play right tackle because Jenkins is not fitting that position. Very good player. That's just not his fit. So that's a change you can make immediately and make that offensive line better, giving Aaron Rodgers more time, opening up potential lanes for the run game, because you were not seeing that today. So that's on the offensive side of the ball. Now you look at the defensive side of the ball. Great first half. They were put in a lot of really bad positions because you had blocked punts, blocked field goals, but they were able to hold strong. And then in the second half, they lost it again, allowing 24 points to be scored in the second half. That's really hard to win games when, 1, you're allowing that, and 2, you can't score on offense. So you put that all together, it's bad football. Rashawn Gary dealing with the injury, still looked good, but where is our pass rush? I would really like to know that, because it's been non-existent for these past couple of weeks, and you're not going up against the most amazing QBs that there are. And again, that's no disrespect to the Jets. They came in, their defense handed our ass to us. But the issue at the end of the day is there's so many issues. It's the coaching, it is Rodgers, it's the offensive line, it is the receivers, it's the defense. And they need to just lock it down and start fixing some of these problems. And I'm going to be honest, I'm tired of hearing the same old stuff from LaFleur and saying, like, we got to get the ball in Aaron Jones' hands more. You control that. You're the head coach. So unless Aaron Rodgers is audibling out of every single run play, I don't know what else to say about this point anymore. So the Packers, again, while it seems like the sky is falling, the truth is, it is just week 6. They have a very long season to try and turn it around, but they have a division rival that's starting to run away with the division a bit, and they cannot get their act together. They're playing the Commanders next week, and then they're going to Buffalo on Sunday night. And if they don't start making some minute fixes to this team, whether it is the O-line, whether it is running the ball more, whether it is that defense just not blowing it in the second half, they're going to get their ass kicked again, and we're going to be having these same conversations every single week. And it's going to be about how the Packers are just not a good football team in 2022. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Hopefully we can get a get-right game against the Commanders, but a pitiful performance by the Packers today, and a sad one at that. Before we go, I want to do a big shout and thank you to some brand new patrons and YouTube members. Over on Patreon, we have Anthony Newell, we have Matthew Netting, and we have Coco Mi Pengu. And on YouTube, we have Kyle, we have Jack Schwallenberg, we have Jason Hoekstra, we have Dusk, we have Kyle Rector, we have Zach Florek, and Nate Schmidt. A big shout out and thank you to you all. But you can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy, all social media you see down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout and thank you to all the patrons over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.